Thanks for joining us. Today I'm speaking with Geoff Pocock, who is a director at Osteopore. Geoff, really good to talk to you.
Good to see you again, Tom.
Now, Osteopore has got some innovative technology when it comes to bone regeneration.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so Osteopore's core technology is a bioresorbable 3D printed implant or scaffold for regenerative bone healing. So what do we mean by that? It's 3D printed. That gives us a lot of manufacturing advantages. We can customise the product as required, and also we can create really detailed microporous structure that actually facilitates bone regeneration. And bone is a tissue that naturally wants to regenerate. If you broke your arm, the doctor would put it in place and the bone will grow back to hold it all and regenerate. But bone won't regenerate across a gap. If a piece of bone's been taken out, that's where the problems come in. The bone won't regenerate across that void. So we provide the scaffold that then allows the bone to grow through the scaffold and generate natural bone to replace the bone that's been removed. The other aspect of it is it's printed out of a polymer called polycaprolactone that's bioresorbable. That means it dissolves over time. So you put the scaffold in, the bone grows through it, the bone is replaced, and then the scaffold dissolves. So there's nothing left behind except natural, healthy bone tissue. And that has huge advantages for complication rates in terms of reducing the risk of complications associated with permanent implants, with permanent pieces of metal or plastic that stay in the body and can cause complications down the track.
So have there been any efficacy issues here in terms of the body rejecting?
None at all, none at all. So this is a product that's been used, so the Osteopore scaffold it's secured all the regulatory clearances globally. We have FDA clearance, we have CE mark approval in Europe, and it's been used 20,000 times. So we've done over 20,000 procedures on patients with virtually no complications, no situations where the polymer has been rejected or other problems.
What sort of time frame are those 20,000 procedures over?
The company's been around, and the research, the technology was originally developed out of research from Singapore.
Yep.
That dates back to probably about 15 years ago or more, but really the vast majority of the procedures have been done over the last 2 or 3 years as the company has really moved into that commercial phase and generating genuine revenues from the products in the market.
So the transmission mechanism for having a novel piece of technology to actually having it penetrate the market really comes down to adoption by specialists. What has been the response from that group?
The doctors love it. The specialists that we've been speaking to, the specialists that are using the product, they see it and they see the better patient outcomes. So. The alternative technologies generally would have been some sort of permanent implant, and in particular the risk on permanent implants is the complication rate, the risks after the surgery, after the initial surgery, that something goes wrong, that the implant fails, the implant might become loose, it might crack or deform, or even more serious, it can actually get an infection. You can get an infection between the permanent implant and the natural bone, and that can be very serious. And so the doctors are looking at this, the surgeons are seeing this, and they're seeing the low complication rate, the virtually zero complication rate associated with 20,000 procedures, and they look at it and say, well, this is generating a better patient outcome, a better therapeutic outcome, and that's what they want to see.
Are there any other organisations that have come up with similar technology? Because sometimes, there's a leap, and you're not the only one that's making the leap.
Look, there's a few different things, and there is a lot of competition in the bone regeneration space, and we're seeing a lot of that happening. There's nothing else at the moment in the market that combines that bioresorbable aspect and that has the microporous structure necessary to assist bone regeneration.
Is that what distinguishes you from any other solution in this space?
Absolutely. That's what makes us different. That bioresorbability, the fact that we don't have a permanent product that's left behind, and also the fact that we are promoting, not just providing a void environment, we're providing a microstructured environment that really promotes natural bone growth.
So the obvious question is, how big is the market for Osteopore?
Well, the market for these sorts of products we estimate to be in the round of $4 billion a year.
Right.
We're currently doing about $1 million a year of revenue. So we've got huge opportunities to grow that revenue stream in what is already a very well established and very significant market globally. And we're generating our revenue really out of a few minor, specific regional, Asian regional centres. Most of our revenue is coming out of Singapore, out of Vietnam, out of Korea. We haven't really tapped into those really lucrative markets in the US and the EU. And that's what the opportunity is for us now with the IPO now completed. we have the funds available to really go out and penetrate into those US and European markets to really drive that sales revenue.
So obviously doctors using this are going to need to be taught how to use it. What sort of time frame are you talking about getting a specialist up to speed with this?
Look, the procedures are not that complicated, and they're not, depending on the product and depending on the procedure, they're not that dissimilar to what the surgeons would be doing already.
Right.
So we do provide training, we do provide that support, and we work with our distributors in the regional markets to work with them to make sure that doctors get up to speed. But we haven't had any problems with doctors going, oh, we don't like the product because it's a different sort of procedure. Yep. The doctors are very happy to learn. They love doing these new things, and the learning curve for the surgeons is not particularly steep relative to what they'd be doing anyway.
And what are the markets that you're going to be focused on?
At the moment, our key markets are, in terms of new markets, obviously the US. That's a primary focus for us, and that's where we want to see a lot of traction over the next 12 to 24 months of really as we can sign up the distributors and get penetration into that market. The European markets are also very attractive. Yep. And also the Australian market, we're in the process of getting the product TGA approved. We have FDA and CE mark, but we're still in the process of getting Australian TGA approval. We anticipate that coming through early next year, and we'll be in a position where we can then start developing the Australian side of the business and the Australian market, and also the Chinese market. And we've recently signed a deal with Hainan province in southern China. Yep. We have the opportunity now to provide products, and we in fact are now providing products into the Chinese market, into Hainan province, and the Chinese government has made a real focus of turning Hainan into a medical tourism, a specialist medical centre hub within China, and they're very keen to get international companies to bring their products in and use that as the pilot site, the demonstration site, as part of getting what used to be the Chinese FDA, getting the Chinese regulatory approvals into China. So we're really excited by the opportunities in China, and we've started to make footholds there, but our focus is very much on the US and European markets going forward.
When you're relying on distributors, you have to do some pretty intensive vetting. What's the best sort of fit for Osteopore when you're talking about these markets? Yeah,
so we're looking for distributors that provide the right sort of support and have the right relationships with the end users and the surgeons. We also do our own direct marketing, and we do a lot of work with the medical fraternity as well, and presenting and demonstrating the products through medical journals, through conferences, and making sure that the surgeons are aware of the range of products that are available to them, and then working with the distributors that have those relationships. So we end up with that push-pull effect, where we've got people pushing the product because they've got the relationships and have access to the product, and that demand from the surgeons as they understand the range of improved therapeutic outcomes that can be available.
Geoff, you said that you've got about $1 million worth of revenue coming through the door at the moment. What does success look like in the next couple of years?
Well, look, we're not making hard revenue predictions at this stage. Obviously, ASX is pretty clear on not letting people do that. But we see a market that's worth billions of dollars. We'd like to see really significant growth in those revenue streams. And our view is that the market is very responsive to that. We see a lot of opportunities for the company to get re-rated as that revenue ticks up around the sort of $10 million a year mark. You start looking at companies like the Polynovos, the Avitas that are in the market at the moment with that sort of revenue number. They're capped at $900 million, $1 billion. Yep. And so from our perspective, with only an $80, $90 million market capitalisation, we see massive opportunities for the company to get re-rated as we hit those sort of the next order of magnitude of revenue.
Good luck in that quest, Geoff. It's always good to talk to you.
Thanks very much, Tom. Been a pleasure.
And thanks for joining us for the Executive Series.